What do I say? I forgot what I was supposed to say in the beginning. Hey y'all, welcome back. If you don't know me, I'm TK, and this channel is all about doing some makeup, doing a little bit of cooking, which is what we're going to do tonight, and just having a little fun. If that sounds like a good time to you, then go ahead, pull up a chair and stay a little while. Tonight you might really want to. And if it doesn't sound like a good time to you, then just scroll up, scroll down. I'm sure you can find something else to watch. We're going to be doing the first in our 420 series, which is 4 meals for around 20 bucks. This very first one, I want to talk about a Southern staple that no matter where you live, you might want to consider having in your cupboard. So stick around and we're going to come right back.
Hey, hey, and let's just always get faded. Let's just always get faded. Yeah, hey, 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 yeah.
Okay, the thing that we are going to talk about today is grits. And I know that a lot of you've heard of it. Maybe some of you have never tried it. Grits originated in Native American culture as kind of like the same way that maybe people would normally use rice. It was used for its own dish. It was mixed in with other foods to make a dish. It was shared with the settlers, and it became a staple in their pantries as well, for much the same reason. And that tradition, or that the food's been handed down. And the beauty about grits is that it's very inexpensive, it's very filling, and it's very versatile. So, well, let me tell you a little bit about how grits are made. Grits are made from corn. It's not the same as masa. Grits are made from what's called hominy. It's the part of the corn that once you take the hull off or soak the hull off, it's just that meat that's in there. So it's dried, it's ground in stone, which is the way that the Native Americans made it. And here in North Carolina, there are still several mills that do stone ground grits. We don't have grits from there tonight, but there are several, and if you want to really try them, mail order, whatever you like. And when you cook it, it has a bit of a gritty texture, but cooking it the right way, it will have a lovely, almost wild rice, and it doesn't really have its own flavor, so it picks up whatever you put it with. In the South, we put it with a lot of bacon grease, and you're going to see that tonight. There are a couple different kinds of grits. 85% of the grits that are sold in America are sold between Texas, rather in a wide swath between Texas and Washington, D.C. And that is literally called the grits belt, which I did not know. I just learned that today. And it is actually the official state prepared food of Georgia. In South Carolina, grits have to be enriched. So if you buy flour, pretty much anywhere, you'll find that wheat flour, by law, needs to be enriched with certain vitamins, generally B vitamins. So in South Carolina, it is the law that any grits that are sold there have to be enriched grits. So this is one brand, Jim Dandy, that does sell enriched grits. I'm in North Carolina, so we can get the grits here. Don't have to be enriched. There's several different kinds we can get. The stone ground grits are really nice to have. There's a place right down the road from me called Old Mill, and that Old Mill is a nice place to pick up the real genuine article of stone ground grits. Generally, what we find in the grocery store, though, if we don't find the Old Mill or Red Mill grits, you can find Quaker old-fashioned grits. Quaker has a quick grits that I use a lot. They're like 5-minute grits. I cook them a little bit longer. I just let them set in the heat, and so they get more creamy like these original ones will get. It's kind of not a food that you just pick up and go, oh, here, just put it in the grit cooker or whatever. It's a food that really you work at a little bit. When I first moved down here, I had grits at a couple different places, and honestly, I just, the first place I had it, I really loved it. The second couple places I had it, it was more like soup. And I thought, oh, you know, these are restaurant chains that are throughout the South, but also throughout the North. And I just thought maybe they're just not really up on the way that you cook grits. And then I went down to Atlanta, and I was down there at Dragon Con. Some of you probably know what that is. And I went to a hotel for breakfast, and I saw they had grits there, but they were creamy, but they were real thick. And I asked the chef, you know, they had like chefs there sort of behind the line. I think this was it was at the Hilton. It was at the Hilton in downtown Atlanta. And I asked them about it. I said, so what do you put, like, because I'd only ever had them plain. I had them, the only time I'd ever had them was a little bit of butter or just plain. I said, so how do you really eat grits? Is it, you know, just plain? Do you put sugar on them? Because I'm like cream of wheat gal, right? And oatmeal gal. And I'm thinking, you put sugar on hot cereal. If you're eating it for breakfast, it's got to have sugar on it. So he's like, oh, let me explain to you how you eat grits. And that's what I'm going to do for you tonight. There is one other grits product I want to talk about. They're probably the simplest to prepare. They are instant grits. And the way that you prepare these, you heat up some water, throw these in the trash, and then cook real grits, okay? Just don't bother with these. They are so highly processed, you're not going to get anything out of them. They're just going to taste like mush. So, anytime you cook grits, it's a 4-to-1 ratio. Here's the thing. 4 cups of water. Let me move these out of the way here real quick. So it's a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 cups of water, so 1 cup of grits. But here's the thing. It will scale down. It does not scale up. Now there are restaurants that do prepare grits in far larger quantities. That's fine. But generally what they're doing is they're using the quick grits, which will scale up. But we're using the original 20-minute grits, and that does not scale up quite as well. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna put our 4 cups of water on the stove, and we're gonna do our grits. We've got our pan on the stove, we've got our 4 cups of water, and that's going in. Yeah, try not to let that pan sit too long, it's gonna get hot. And we are going to do what everybody kind of would expect to do, I guess, in the South, and that's we're gonna add a half a stick of butter. For those of you who might be in the UK, a stick of butter is a half a cup, okay? That is a stick. I know that in the UK, the sticks are actually 1-pound sticks. When we're talking about that, we're talking about 1/2 cup. So I have a stick here that's cut down. You just go ahead, put that in there. If you want to cut it up, that's fine. And I'm going to do a whole video on basics that you definitely want to get in your kitchen. But in this point, you know, you definitely want to have a really good wire whisk. You want to have at least 1 good plastic spoon. A great place to go and get these things is if you live near an IKEA, they're pennies, literally pennies. And the whole idea behind us doing, you know, 420 is to show you that you can cook some really, if you have the right tools and you have the right, and actually the investment in the tools isn't much. So if you have the tools and you shop correct, you shop right, you can eat well. I know that a lot of college students struggle and they always talk about, well, just eat ramen. Okay, well, yes, you can. But you can, you know, for $20, you can get 4 decent dinners, 4 decent meals. And then you have that Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday night, you can go ahead and save extra money to go out have dinner with your friends or something like that. So we're just going to wait for that butter to melt down, and we're going to wait for that to bubble just a little bit. Now, in the meantime, what you want to have is you want to have another burner that's roughly the same size as your pot. This is a 2-quart cooking pot. It's like just about on the edge of boiling. I usually like to have it come to a boil, but not really, just get to a simmer, a nice simmer before I put my grits in. Just so that it's kind of rolling and that it's violent enough to spit the hot grits back at me and burn me up. So that's breaking through, and that's starting to come to a little bit of a boil. And that is right at the time we're just going to start whisking that water, and we're just going to start dumping those grits in. All right. And I know that looks like soup, and you're like, no, that's not even gonna work. Trust me, this is not oatmeal. Grits, boy oh boy, they really absorb water, and that butter is gonna make them super creamy. I'm not gonna lie to you, it will have a bit of a grit to it, texture to it, but it is not like eating sand or anything like that. You don't want to stand over a pot of rolling grits because it will spit at you. I got a burner right back here that's on low. Handles out, keeps them cool. So tonight I'm going to introduce you to this is a dinner dish that you can make with grits. I know I talked about having them for breakfast. Trust me, we're going to get there. But this is a dinner dish that we're going to make tonight. And it is shrimp and grits. So this pound of shrimp, I got that at Walmart. It was frozen. These are large. They've already been deveined. They already have the tails taken off. Not a pain in the neck, which I love. And I paid $5 for these, okay, for the pound. This is pico de gallo. Paid about $1 for it. I paid $2 for 2 cups. We're only going to use a cup tonight. I have some bacon grease here that we're going to use, and some bacon. Paid about $2 for the bacon. It is just a regular thin hickory smoked. So paid about $2 for that. We're only using half the package, so $1. I've got half of an onion. I got half of an onion in here, and about a tablespoon of crushed garlic, and some red peppers these are fire roasted peppers. These grits were about $1.50 for this whole container. This whole container, trust me, this will feed you for a month. I've got 1/8 of a cup of Old Bay seasoning. The Old Bay seasoning was about $2, and 1/8 of a cup is maybe 1/4 of the container that I bought. And I bought, now if you're in the South, and specifically in North Carolina, I don't know how popular this is, but there is something here called Niece's Country Sausage. And let me tell you, you have not had good country sausage until you've had Niece's. I thought it was kind of ridiculous when I first moved down here. Everybody talked about Niece's sausage, and I was like, sausage is sausage. It should just taste all the same. Trust me, they really got it down, and they really know what they're doing. This is great sausage. I'm not being paid by them. This is not a sponsored video or anything like that. I don't have a code at Niece's. But if you get down to the South, if you live in the South and you haven't tried it, go ahead, give it a try. It's all going to kind of come together, and we're going to merge it with those grits. So the first thing that I want to get in that pan to get started is I want to get my vegetables in. Vegetables take the longest time to cook, so you always want to get them in first. It is a bit of a spicy dish, but you can control all of that by what you put in it. If you don't like spice, then, if you like a little more spice, you can add cayenne. If you use this much Old Bay, you may want to you might want to use, maybe if you don't really like spice, you can do half of that. And then you can do half of some other kind of shrimp seasoning that you like that might not be too spicy. Or you can just do salt and pepper. This dish came from what they call, this is low country cuisine. So what they mean by that is we're talking about the coastal region of Georgia and the southern coastal region of South Carolina. And so you can imagine there are many variants of this dish. I'm going to try to not bore you too much. I will put the recipe in the description down below, and I promise that I will not write a 10-page odyssey about my childhood before you can get to the recipe, okay? So let's head back over to the stove. We're going to get our big pot on, and this is all going to go in one pot. Now, just occasionally, you're going to want to come back in here on these grits, and you're going to want to get that whisk in there and just stir them. Be careful. Grits are starchy. They stick. They burn real bad. They can actually burn you. worse than grease because they do stick, and they will be a little bit sticky. It's fine, just keep moving it around. It is best to cook grits in a non-stick pot. You're probably going to want to do that. So come back in here, stir them grits up, put that lid back on, let them just sit there. So I cooked down 8 rashers of bacon. If you don't know what a rasher is, it's 1 slice of bacon. Is that a standard measure? No, it is not, because some bacon is cut thicker than others. This is 6 rashers of a regular cut bacon, so it's a bit thin. And that's not nearly enough fat to cook in. So, as you can imagine, like we do, we're gonna add some butter. So now we've got that other half a stick of butter in there along with the bacon. I know. Listen, I didn't say this was gonna be healthy. I said you could eat it for 4 days. After that, you probably want to have a salad. All right, and since we got that's nice and bubbly, we don't need to make clarified butter. All that is going in there. All right. Sometimes in those peppers, there's going to be a little bit of seeds. You know, it don't really matter, to be honest. That is what it is. You know, when you make sometimes you make a jalapeno dish or something like that, and you can get a little bit of seeds in there. That's fine. So what you see in here right now is we've got our red peppers, our onions, and our garlic is in there. And we're not really going to cook those onions down till they're clear. They're definitely not going to be brown, all right? I've got this on about a medium-high heat, and that's where you're going to want to keep it pretty much. I cook with a lot of spatulas. This one, I'm going to switch over to a wooden spoon. I like wooden spoons. They give you a lot of leverage, and we're going to be putting some stuff in here in a minute that's going to need some leverage, so you can see how just delicious and unctuous that is. I wish there was such a thing as like YouTube smell, like you could just smell like it's amazing. Next, our pico de gallo is going in there. Okay, and that's going to add, all of this is going to add some color. It's going to add a lot of color. It's going to add a lot of water. It needs to have a little bit of a sauce in there. So we're going to cook that down. Those tomatoes are cooking up real nice. And so the pico de gallo was a little cold. It's reduced our heat a little bit, so we're going to wait till that comes back up a little. Because timing is so important when you're making a dish like this, you're probably going to want to just go ahead and put them on low. That way they can sit, you can stir them occasionally, and while you're making this, your grits aren't sitting anywhere getting cold or getting sticky or getting turning into cement. Because the one thing about them is if you don't cook grits low and slow, that starch will seize up really fast. All right, so next, Nice's. Now this is, I love Nice's. They've got this beautiful wax paper. This is just like from the butcher shop, okay? And I've got about a pound here, and I'm going to use about half of that. And I'll tell you what, Nice's sausage is, it is a little on the expensive side, okay? It is more expensive than like a Bob Evans or something like that. But if, you know, you spent $5 on shrimp, you can afford a little bit extra done for the sausage, and that's the key. Back to this, we're going to get that, I'm going to pull out a tool that I want to show you. Yeah, no, it's not me, because I can be a tool, trust me. I want to pull this out to show you. I got this at one of those Pampered Chef parties. Now, Pampered Chef is not an MLM. It doesn't work like that. Some people think that everything that you do a party for in your home is an MLM. It's not. My girlfriend was making a nice little sideline of money. But anyways, this is kind of a cool tool. And I know, like, I watch a lot of Alton Brown, and he's always like, hey, don't use, you know, don't buy unitaskers. Well, I'll tell you what this is very good for, you can see, is just breaking up that sausage. You can do the same thing with your ground beef. If you don't want to get big pieces of ground beef, or end up with tiny meatballs, you want it to be like really nice, you can use it to do that. The other thing it does super, super well is it's a good potato masher. And I love it. And so it basically does have maybe one job that it does really well. It mashes things, but it does do it very well, and I can kind of respect that. So, right, that sausage has got to be cooked. You got to make sure that there's a couple foods that you can't eat tartare. One is chicken. Don't fall for that ever. And the other is pork. You really can't eat raw pork. Same thing with ground. So when you get ground beef, if you want to eat it rare, then get ground chuck, because the ground chuck is from the inside of the piece of meat, and it's all ground together without the outside piece that will have gathered some bacteria. The thing we are going to do is we're going to throw in that bacon. We've got some bacon here, and this bacon was already cooked. It's crunchy, but we really just want to get it in there, warm it up a little bit. Nobody wants to eat cold bacon. Okay, maybe you do eat cold bacon. I mean, like, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat it. If I'm hungover, man, which I'm not that much anymore, but if I was hungover, man, like a Bloody Mary with about 3 rashers of cold bacon, that's just fine with me. And now we're putting all those lovely shrimp in there. Now, why did I put the shrimp in last? Because shrimp cook very quickly. Here's what else they do real quickly. They get rubbery. So they start hitting that heat and they get pink almost immediately. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get them down there on the bottom. In all of that. And this dish takes almost no time to put together. Yeah, let me just put that on top for a second. All right, it looks like our shrimps are cooking up. Shrimp. Yeah, you can clock me for that if you want to. Actually, both of them are correct. Texture in them, and when you push on them, they feel bouncy without feeling solid and rubbery. So this is the point at which we're going to put our seasoning in. And that looks like a lot of seasoning, I know, but it is not, because this is all going to get mixed into the grits. And remember what I said, grits don't have their own flavor. They are bland as bland. So I just turned my grits off. And I'm fixing to turn this off too. Just as soon as we get all that in there. Oh Lord, I wish you could smell this. This is amazing. It's really amazing. And there you have it. That is Low Country shrimp and grits. This is what we would call unctuous. And you've probably heard the word unctuous thrown around a lot, especially on Food Network. And people seem to think it means like really delicious, super delicious. That is not what unctuous means. Unctuous doesn't mean rich either. Unctuous literally just means fatty. So it means fatty in a good way, like in a very unctuous pulled pork sandwich. It means that they've blended in plenty of fat to make that pork very, very moist. And so that's what unctuous means. I've heard it thrown around so much where they go, oh, it's unctuous, and it's like, no, it's not fatty. Salads are not unctuous. They shouldn't be. So anyways, just want to explain that to you. But this is definitely going to be unctuous. We've got butter. We've got our bacon grease in there. So yeah, unctuous. Go ahead and plate this, because honestly, 4 meals could be 2 nights for you and your wife or whatever. Let me grab my plate. This type of serving spoon right here is about 1/4 cup. So you're going to do about 1/2 cup, maybe a little more. It just depends on how much you like grits. Now I'll tell you what, I'll do what I would normally do, which would be about 3/4 cup on a plate. And then you're going to take this delicious, now I'm gonna you can see all that is looks so good in there. You're gonna want to tip that pan and scoop from the bottom, because you want a little bit of that juice. See that coming off there? And then that's how you're gonna want to serve that, just like that. Maybe throw an extra shrimp or 2 on there. And there it is, folks. That is Low Country shrimp and grits. This is about 1/4 of what I cooked in this pan, so you've definitely got 3 meals in here. I know a lot of people maybe you're thinking, oh, that's not for me because this is really, I eat a lot. This is a dish that will fill you up. You might eat a lot, but this, my dear, this is definitely going to, I'm just going to put that up to the camera. That is definitely going to fill your belly. Those grits are no joke. I'm going to pull them back here since they stay in the camera. So now, you've had your couple meals, all right? Or shrimp is going to go in the freezer for another time. Freeze is really nice. You can put it in the freezer, bring it out later, make another batch of grits, shrimp and grits again. The next thing I want to show you though, now you've got leftover grits. What can you do with these? What do I do for breakfast? If I want to eat for breakfast. Now I'm going to tell you about what the man told me when I was down in Atlanta and I discovered grits, real grits, how they were, what they were, and how to eat them for breakfast. I will tell you this. My husband is from Connecticut. He eats grits with sugar. This is, I think, a 3rd-class felony in the South. So we try not to tell anybody because we don't want to get investigated by the SBI. But the way you're supposed to eat grits for breakfast is some people just eat them with butter. That's fine. Some people go ahead and they'll add shredded cheese to them, right? What else is in that bowl? Bacon. Of course it's bacon. In the world. So the way that the man down in Atlanta did for me, the way that he did it was he took a bowl, he put a little bit of shredded cheese and bacon in the bottom, okay? So you've got your cheese and your bacon in the bottom. You're gonna put a nice spoonful of grits over top of that, okay? Maybe a little bit extra there just to fill in the holes. Then take a little bit of butter, just a little bit. You're just gonna put a couple, maybe a teaspoon of butter in there, and just put it on either side of that. There you go. Take a little more cheese, put it in the middle with the butter, and then take another scoop of grits. Now, at this point in time, you're gonna just cover that whole thing, that whole layer, with grits. Okay, so we've got a solid 1.5 cups in there. And then you're just going to take that bacon and a little bit more cheese and you're going to put it over top. And that's it. That is breakfast. Now, some people put eggs in there. My husband does put eggs in his grits, but he won't eat them with cheese and bacon. Don't know why. But this is a very hearty breakfast. If you are a hungry man and you like to eat a big breakfast and then smaller meals later in the day, I could recommend this. But this is more something that we save for like Christmas. Like literally, we don't eat a whole lot of it. If you're trying to eat well and you're trying to stay on a budget, grits is a good thing to have in your cupboard. It's not always rice. It's not always potatoes. You want to have grits in your cupboard like you have flour, like you have eggs, like you have milk, and you want to have some grits. Thing you can do with them, once they're cold, you can make them into patties. You can put a little bit of egg wash on the outside of them, a little bit of breadcrumb, and you can deep fry them or you can fry them on the stove, and that's called a grit cake. I hope you enjoy this introduction to this really, really lovely grain. Yes, technically it's a vegetable. And I want you to get back to me any way you want. You can email me. You can post something in the comments. You can look me up on Instagram. I want you to get back to me and tell me if you've done anything with grits and what you've done and what kind of recipes you've made. Even if you've done a dessert recipe, I would love to hear about it. That is all I have for now, and I'm really glad that you stuck around. If you enjoyed yourself this evening, we're going to do more videos like this. with cooking. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, get your notifications turned on, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, y'all. Welcome back. Yeah, shit. Hey, y'all, welcome back. Hey, y'all, fucking hell.
Hey, hey, let's just all get faded. Let's just all get faded.